Black lights and booze burn when I record for Watts. And every black like Troy Davis who never had a fair shot. All black everything, everything black. Culture over everything, y'all, we taking it back.
Welcome to the season 12 premiere of Left of Black. And befitting this occasion, we're honored to have Professor Michael Eric Dyson join us. Now I know Michael Eric Dyson for the last 25 years as a friend and colleague, but the world knows Michael Eric Dyson as one of, if not the preeminent public intellectual of now one or two generations.
Please welcome back to the show the ever-inspiring Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. There he is.
Michael Eric Dyson.
Now, I believe in charity. What I don't believe in is collective guilt. And that's why I'm confused by the phrase white privilege.
Well, white privilege doesn't suggest guilt. It suggests responsibility and accountability. The same accountability that America talks to about people pulling up themselves by their bootstraps and addressing their situations, their communities as being responsible for doing what they're doing. I don't believe in collective guilt, but I do believe in collective responsibility.
White people, some of them, for the first time, fell in love with the black condition, the black struggle, the black resistance. Black lives matter. What do you do at work? What do you do at home? How do you talk to your parents? How do you talk to your grandparents? How do you speak to your peers?
We got a special guest in the building.
I really enjoy reading this young man's work. Michael Eric Dyson is here.
Oh man, young man, I love y'all.
More formally, he's a Centennial Chair and Universally Distinguished Professor of African American and Diaspora Studies in the College of Arts and Sciences and the University Distinguished Professor of Ethics and Society in the Divinity School at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. He is a New York Times bestseller. And we're not going to read all of these books that the good doctor has published since that very first one, and still one of my favorites, Reflecting Black, African-American Cultural Criticism, University of Minnesota, 1993. We could talk about I May Not Get There With You, the True Martin Luther King Jr., New York Free Press, 2000, the first of his Martin Luther King books. Holler If You Hear Me, Searching for Tupac Shakur, 2002, kind of changed the game in hip hop studies. Open Mic, Reflections on Philosophy, Race, Sex, Culture, and Religion, not to be mistaken for the Michael Eric Dyson reader. and so that we know that the brother has been on time with so many issues. Is Bill Cosby right, or has the Black middle class lost its mind? Though in 2021, we might remix that title to Was Michael Eric Dyson right? From Hell or High Water, Hurricane Katrina and the Color of Disaster, and two of his really important most recent books, The Black Presidency, which was published in 2016, and Tears We Cannot Stop, A Sermon to White America. And there are at least a dozen more books there that I could have mentioned. But today we're talking about the new book, Entertaining Race, Performing Blackness in America, published by St. Martin's Press. How are you doing today, Professor Dyson?
Professor Mark Anthony Neal, my favorite cultural critic out here on the hustings, doing his thing, mastering all media. We're waiting for Black Ephemera, brother. We're waiting for that book to drop so I can learn something from it and apply it to my classes. I mean, you've taught me so much over the years, and it's been great to have you as a colleague, a mentor, a guide, a big brother, a little brother, my man. So it's great to be on your show, sir.
I appreciate that, man. And so let me tell you that, the thing that's most striking about this collection is that this is all stuff that has existed already in the world.
Right.
And many different, right? So it's like a collection of essays on the one hand, but it's like the stuff that nobody saw.
Right.
Stuff that's connected to album releases and books that nobody read, or just all kinds of things. And there's no way you can read this and not be like, just damn, the range of subject matter, the prolificness of what you've done over this period of time. Because it's one thing to talk about the 20-something books. But you 2 readers already now, or maybe 3 readers that you dropped now with this. I mean, it's just an extraordinary level of high productivity, and really a model, for what we think about as public intellectual thought in the 21st century. And to be honest, a bunch of us have grabbed bags you know, because of the work that you've done, you know, so far. So tell me a little bit about the journey to this book.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for the recognition. And you're right. So I would have said it's like Jay-Z's B-sides, but then or his guest appearances and features. But in sense, you know, I got some A-sides on here too, but ain't nobody seen them. And you're right. Most of this stuff will be new to people, even people who have been fans of mine or avid readers of mine, because it's been dispersed across a number of fora. I got interviews, I got sermons, I got essays, I got op-eds, I got debates. And so when you think about it, it is a wide range of genres that I've tried to engage in and to think about. And I thought this was a good time to bring this to a head, so to speak. I had been thinking about it before. I've been thinking about putting this collection together in earlier times, but it seemed to come together most appropriately now in the aftermath of the reckoning with systemic racism, speaking about critical race theory, because I got a keynote that I delivered at Howard University Law School. About
years ago, right? Not Johnny come lately, right?
The day after my 55th birthday, and I'm 62, be 63 this year. The Lord be willing, the creek don't rise. So, by the time people see this, I'm 63. So, so the thing is that I've been trying to grapple with these issues in a number of places and spaces, and it seemed appropriate with all the brouhaha over critical race theory, the controversies over teaching race in public schools, the COVID-19 vaccination scandals, and so on. So this was the appropriate moment, and I wanted to talk about, you know, I said, well, what is the theme here of all this stuff? And that's when I came up with, well, we've been entertaining race, because, you know, I got my Beyonce stuff in here. I got and Michael Jackson. It's Beyonce and Michael. Then I got Bill Withers. I know you'd appreciate that. You know, a lot of people might not. The Isley Brothers from '96. I mean, before Ron had the sexy beard, I was on it. I'm just letting y'all know. So Isley Brothers, Nas, you know, with my essay about One Love, and of course, the late but certainly great Aretha Franklin. So I start there with the music stuff, you know, entertainers, entertaining race. These are race people who entertain, but also as a scholar, I'm entertaining the idea of race. And how have I entertained the idea of race along a number of axes and a number of genres, and trying to grapple with issues that are central to the nation and especially to our community. So it seemed like the right time. I had to cut chapters. My editor was like, bro, you can't come with all that now.
500 pages, right?
That's it. You know, so I might have part two, you know, coming out. I got more stuff to say. You know,
Michael, you begin the book with a theory around Black performance. And again, you start, you know, on the slave ship. And this young woman who resists being forced to entertain, right? You know, putting in the context of Black folks, for all the genius that we've expressed as entertainers, as performers, the original context for that was always to perform for white people, right? On demand, right? You know, whether or not we wanted to or not. But you talk about, when we think about the dimensions of contemporary Black performance, what you call the echo, the shadow, the spark, and the register. Unpack that for our listeners.
Man, I forgot I was talking to Mark Anthony Neal. I'd have to explain this stuff. I'm just dang. But dang, I'm just sitting there thinking, I should have named the intro On Demand. That's even, it's command performance. That's pretty dope. But On Demand is like better. Oh my gosh, as I usually do. I usually run stuff by you. I don't know what the heck happened. That On Demand is dope. Yes. When I go on the road, I'm gonna say that. Yes. Well, I really meant On Demand, because download and command to perform. Yeah. So, you know, I wanted to talk about, as you say, I start the book with that infamous, well, it wasn't even painting, it's an engraving, it's a, a rendering by Isaac Cruikshank of a young Black enslaved girl on a ship being taken from her native environ to the New World against her will. And so they get up and demand that these young women get up and dance, and she refuses. Now, the backstory, of course, is that she's already been infected with a venereal disease by the very doctor who's examining her before they get on board. And so she's having side effects of that disease untreated. He's trying to treat as best he can the progress of the venereal disease, but she's feeling, out of sorts and not inclined to dance, but they don't care. Get up, regardless of your situation. As the brothers and sisters say, irregardless of what you're dealing with, stand up and perform. And she refuses. And a whip is taken to her, and she is literally beat to death, whipped to death, and hanging in midair by one ankle, upside down. I mean, the brutality of enslavement comes home to us again. And so later on, John Kimber, the captain of that ship, is surprisingly accused of murder of this young lady and another young lady, and taken to trial. Of course, he beat the case. He didn't get put in jail at any point, put in prison for this. But it came to light that the reason she was beat is because she refused to perform. And so I use that as a metaphor for Black people being forced to perform against our will, command performance, or as you said, on demand at this particular point, like we some darn Netflix or something, and they got us right there, and they want to see what we do. Let me see sexy, let me see involved, and so on. So I came up with these four, categories of echo, the sound, the sonic intensity, shadow, what you see, so sound is music and the like, speaking and the like, talking and the like. Echo is, the sound that we make as we try to grapple with our own existences. And then shadow is the visible, physical, realities of film, of recordings, of looking and seeing, the optic nerve, racially speaking. What's the other one? Spark is the intellectual engagement, the emotional intensity and spirit. What is it? Echoes.
Register, right?
Register. Yes, register is that intellectual engagement, and spark the kind of emotional investment in what we see in the world. So I wanted to talk about these varieties of genres of Black performativity, as we might say, of Black performance, and what we do as we perform. And not just famous people and not just professional entertainers. I'm talking about ordinary, everyday people doing their thing anonymously or in their own spaces and places.
So I want to start with the Beyonce piece, the Beyonce and Michael Jackson piece.
My argument is that Beyonce snatched the crown from Michael Jackson. I saw him at his height. I don't know if y'all went to his concerts and saw him at his height, but I did.
No, I didn't
and he
see
was
that.
extraordinary. He's a genius. But what she's doing is on another level. I mean, nonstop, 2.5 hours. That old thing that said that Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers were partners, back in the day, and she did everything Fred Astaire did except backwards and in high heels. And that's what I feel about Beyonce.
On the one hand, it really sparked a conversation when it first circulated, because you were the one who wrote the essay for this Beyonce book, right? And we're in this kind of moment, and rightfully so, in the way that Black women's intellectual productivity has been erased, the really bad sexist and misogynist citational practices that we have historically seen in the academy and otherwise, right? So, understand that rightfully so, Black women intellectuals in particular want to make sure that they can claim, right, intellectually, right, the women who are producing work that most reflects who they are. Right. But I was often struck by, there were criticisms like, well, why is he doing it, right? And part of it is because she asked you to, right? And you're not going to say no. But to kind of riff off of that, do you think it's ever appropriate, for instance, if a Black male scholar is asked to write about a Black woman, is it appropriate for him to pass on that and suggest a Black woman scholar? And if it's not appropriate, what are the contexts for that? I mean, it's an issue that I thought about, for instance, the piece I did for the Times on Patti LaBelle last year, right? And literally I could think of a dozen, women scholars, Black women scholars who would have done extraordinary pieces, but I'm like, I want to write and I know about, right? The Bell, right? And it's in the New York Times. I'm going to write this piece. So how do you navigate these kind of, dynamics in your own career and your own writing?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's very, very insightful. And I have passed many a day and many a time and deferred. That's what I do. I say, look, I can't do it, but here's somebody who can. I don't want to do that. Here's somebody who's better. Mark Anthony Neal knows that much better than I do. James Braxton Peterson knows that much better than I do. Mark Lamont Hill knows that much better than I do. Imani Perry knows that much better than I do. And on and on and on. So I have done that. I have practiced that citation.
Yeah, right.
That's light. I've done it in the life, in the archive, in the existential affirmation of the other. And I'm of a dual mind about the issue you're raising now, because we should always be conscious of and considerate of, especially Black women who have been denied, who can't step into the space, who've not been allowed to step into space, who deserve it, or those who are rising. I put Brittany Cooper in my essay in the New Republic, and she had not yet written a book.
Right.
And yet I talked about her as one of the, great young digital Black intelligentsia, and recommended her to my, agent, and recommended a lot of Black women to my literary agent. Men too, but a lot of sisters. And so I believe in that in a very fundamental way. So I'm definitely down with that. But it's like if LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, they're going to encourage the younger generation, but they trying to get chips too. They trying to win home. And so it ain't like women ain't competitive, right? Because they blocking out each other in ways I ain't blocking about. Like, well, damn, you like, no, that heifer don't deserve, right? We don't speak about that. That ain't real, right? It's not just misogynoir that practice gender-based from men to women. It's women to women. It's internal, it's intramural, right? Indictments. So that's real too. That's not to dismiss. I'm on a panel with you and Treva Lindsay, and she breaking it down brilliantly. And I've recommended her to other people and places, or Tanita Ford, Professor Ford. There are so many, Tanisha. So there's so many people that I think of, that I support, that I know. And yet at the same time, I've been doing this for 30 years. When I came out of graduate school, 2 years later, I was on the cover of the New Yorker with Cornel West, with Derek Bell and Bell Hooks. 30 years later, I'm hitting the New York Times bestseller list with Ta-Nehisi Coates, and I'm trying to LeBron James the game, man. I'm trying to Tom Brady. I'm trying to Tom Brady out here. I'm like, is he still winning chips at 44? Yes. I'm still dropping books like Negroes Write Hooks. That's what I do. So, first of all, I was envious. I know and love and appreciate the great Beyonce. And Beyonce had asked many other women, right? Sister Adichie, the great novelist, the other young lady that she had on her album, people doing it. So look, she ain't had no shortage of women, and all of the Orisha and the female goddesses. Look at it's draped. Her music, her videos rich with draped in tremendous citations of Black spirituality, Black female heroes, Serena Williams, and on and on and on. So I figured, you could get a brother up in there, and we need men to affirm Black female genius. And the argument I'm making, I ain't heard no woman make it. I said she the coldest ever, including Michael Jackson. And I love Michael Jackson. Trust and believe. Now his body of work still untouched. Ain't nobody fooling with the body of work. But I'm talking about the body at work. The body at work on stage? No, stop. I saw them both at their height. I saw Michael. He was cold-blooded. You ain't fooling with Beyonce. In terms of nonstop for 2 hours, Michael taking the wardrobe change. This woman ain't stopped for 2 hours. And let's be real, as I make an argument in this essay, because it's a combination of what the great Beyonce asked me to do for her, for the reissue of Lemonade and a coffee table book, so to speak, and the great Veronica Chambers, who did a book on Queen Bee. So it's a combination of those, it's a fusion of those and a splicing together of those two essays. But the thing is, at his height, Michael's vocal height was from about age 8 to 9 to about 21. Right. Then he had a different, he had sonic hiccups. He had all
this other stuff,
register, right? And I mean, still a beautiful voice. Beyonce is 40 years old and she is still in the power. Listen to the register change in the vocal range and the octaves on Love on Top. And she's doing that on stage while singing. You know, it's that old Ernst and whatever cartoon about Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. Ginger Rogers did everything Fred Astaire did except backwards and in high heels. Come on, bruh. Beyonce is doing what Mike did and more, and getting her hair caught in the fan and keep singing. And so at that level, I'm saying I'm making an argument about Black female genius. I'm saying Beyonce is often dismissed as a genius because she's beautiful, she's sexy, she's powerful, she's popular. Look at the work of what she's doing. I'm making an argument. She is the godmother of mumble rap in terms of the sonic indent of, you know, her elision of syllables in her music and so much more. So yeah, I figured that level, I got a right to kind of weigh in as well, to put my Michael Dyson imprint, the Dysonian imprint on that as well. I acknowledge and defer, but I also got to assert and affirm.
Yeah, you know, you said something a moment ago that I want to go back to because I think it's important. Your career, for me at least, you know, on a personal level, and it's not just you, has been marked by a certain kind of both a critical generosity, you know, the practice of critique that's generous and is trying to generate, right, a more loving product in the end, right? Not just, you know, coming out from a space of hate, but also generally your generosity in the field, right? In terms of helping people along, passing on information to folks and things like that. You know, we got into this moment in large part because of social media in which it is hyper competitive.
Oh my God.
Are you afraid that we're losing that sense? And again, we're not just talking about you. I mean, this is what the field looked like for many years. Do you feel as though we're losing that sense of generosity? Right, amongst Black scholars and Black journalists and Black writers and even Black artists to some extent, you know, that had been a hallmark of our productivity for so long.
That's a great point again. And yes, and I'm not one of these dudes, you know, you look at my book, Race Rules, where I'm talking about Black pop culture and I'm talking about hip hop and I'm talking about the politics of nostalgia. So I'm not one of these dudes sitting around, oh, it used to be great, now you're all messed up. That's not me. That's not what I do. Or what one anthropologists call imperial nostalgia. You're a dominant power. You destroy the cultures that are vulnerable and subservient to you. Then you lament their past. Right, demise, you killed them, homie. You killed them. Right. But having said that, that ain't me. But yeah, you got to look at the big shifts and changes. Look, I think social media has been great in many ways. Look, you can be online. Oh my God, Professor Mark Anthony Neal. In the old days, you had to write him a letter. Maybe you call them on the phone.
Well, you couldn't even email them. Right. You couldn't even email.
Right, exactly. Even email. Now you can be on there and like get it in a micro blog called Twitter. Yeah. You can interact with your hero, Mark Anthony Neal, and he might respond to you. Oh my God. Now, that means you don't have the letter writing campaign or the emails or the calls, putting it together, trying to be concise and compelling. You just like, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. So it's like the Chitlin circuit. When the Chitlin circuit has been displaced by the internet and people ain't never been on stage, but got a #1 album and now got to go on stage, but ain't been and cut their teeth out there. Again, this ain't dissing. This is acknowledging what skills are lost in the process. And the skills that are lost in the process of social media is cultivation. Of finding now a lot of people would, oh my God, deference? What are you talking about? Everybody's equal. No, they ain't. No, you ain't.
Everybody ain't peers. Everybody is
you
not
ain't
peers.
My peer, Holmes.
Right.
You up there just because you have access on me and calling me names on Twitter? Show some respect, mofo. Show some acknowledgement for the work I done. Now you are expert and you've been alive 10 minutes and on Twitter 5 minutes. and now you got the whole thing. I'm not saying we can't be challenged because we often can be challenged. We should be challenged. But I'm saying the level of respect, of generosity, of acknowledgement of the other, reciprocal reinforcement. I'm tired of the nastiness, the hatefulness. And yeah, that competitive spirit has been taken to the nth degree where there is no, well, it's not that there's none, but you know, the cost of cooperation is often you look like a fool. You better get it yourself. You better do it on your own. Right. You better be the one to post first. You better make the Instagram. You better make the Twitter. You better make the Facebook and so on and so forth, as opposed to thoughtful, considered engagement of acknowledging that it's a tribe and a group and not just an individual, the narcissism that is encouraged with these social media means that it's a different day and age. Now, there's some tremendous advantages. Archives, you're going to write about this in Black Ephemera, stuff that you have to go to the library for. You cannot get in a click.
Right.
You can download the book. You can order it from Amazon. You have to go to the bookstore. So all that's great, but there's some loss there. And that loss is human community, fellow feeling. Because are you really a human community when you're on the internet, when you're on social media, when you're forging it through the web? You know, the web of connection is severed on the web. And so there are intimacies that are generated and those that are shredded. And I think, and then if you throw in cancel culture, which I'm a huge critic of, and I know the left says there's no such thing as cancel culture. That's just a word invented by the right wing to talk about their culpability. No, it ain't. It's real. And Black Twitter, ironically enough, as Black people are wont to do, we be inventing stuff way before white folk get involved. And the beautiful characteristic of Black culture is that we are able to both recognize and repudiate genius. And we're both able to embrace it and to hate it at the same time. And that's what we see with Twitter and other social media.
You know, Michael, you are an ordained minister. And for folks who have never heard you in a church, right, you know, it is an experience, right? And you can see the differences between when you're talking to lay audiences and when you're talking to, you know, particularly Black Christian audience, Black Baptist audiences. Right. But one of the things that comes up in Christian discourse is this idea of redemption. And I'm not going to name any names, right? We all know who needs redemption at this particular moment.
We can't even say it. We can't even say it. We can't even say it.
But, you know, at this stage, right, why do you think we're not having more conversations about what redemption looks like, right? We're not even talking about the celebrities that we're referencing here,
right?
You know, but some of these acts, right?
Right.
Dudes were doing that before, we'll do that after.
Yes.
Right? And when they get out of jail, they're not going to somebody's Black community. They're coming back to our communities, right? That's right. In that context, and we're not talking forgiveness, we're not talking forgetting. What does redemption look like? And why won't we really have a conversation about that?
Man, you are just dropping so much science today. You're right. I mean, and I'm an ordained Baptist minister, as you say, I believe in redemption. I mean, one of our major figures in the faith writ large is a guy named Paul. Paul, he was Saul, he was killing Christians, he was murdering people. He was an accomplice to murder and participating in the murder. Come on, dog. And he was redeemed. Moses was a killer in the Hebrew Bible, in the Old Testament, and then became the leader of the people. Now, that don't mean just because you did it, it's good. You got to go through a confession and acknowledgement and contrition and penitence and then redemption. That's why they call it the penitentiary, because the Quakers were involved in Pennsylvania about penitence, critical reflection, but incarceration doesn't even do penitence anymore. They do punishment. We ain't got to read Foucault to understand that. We got to talk about a fool who's cold because he's been left out there by himself to deal with it. So my point is that yeah, we have bypassed redemption. Social media is about the digital lynch mob. It is about, I caught Dyson, I caught Neal, I caught X, Y, and Z, I caught this, and on stuff. Okay, you might be right, we wrong, but can we admit we wrong? No. You get the death penalty. Everything is the death penalty. My eyelashes were wrong. Death penalty. Engaged in sexual assault. Death penalty. Wait a minute. There's no continuum on eyelash infraction and sexual assault and murder. Like none. Like racism. And we know of a recent event where a Black man used his social media platform to get a white woman fired because she said, "Stay in your hood." Brother Joseph, I said it, but my God, and I love him and I respect him and appreciate him. I just think that's going too far. When I mean, can the woman, she said, if you're right, she said, "Stay in your hood." She didn't call you the N-word. She didn't do right. Getting her fired? Like, that's it? Or when they called me, Pharrell, the entertainer, called me from Virginia, and they were thinking at that point, because the governor had messed up and been in blackface, should we get rid of him? I said, no. keep that white man. Ain't nothing better than a white boy who knows he's been forgiven by black people. I said, he might be better than Abraham Lincoln for y'all. And I'll be darned if that man didn't stay in office and do stuff for black people that was amazing. And because here's what happens. You put him out, the next white guy, you go, hey, have you ever done in blackface? No, although the next one in line did. That's irony. But if you ask the one that you get to go be governor, have you ever done blackface? No. Have you ever used the N-word? No. Are you interested in black issues? No. So you can get somebody who hasn't called you the N-word, but who don't give a darn about you as a black person. Right. Whereas the governor who was there, who messed up 20 years ago, do people evolve? Do they grow? Do they change their minds? Now is invested because of your forgiveness of him. You're allowing him to be redeemed. He is now engaging in activities that are productive to black people. We got to stop this on the sexual assault front, on the sexual justice front, on the racial assault front, on the racial justice front. Yes, we must hold people accountable. If you mess up, you got to fess up and then dress up. You got to be held accountable. But God darn it, where is the redemption? There are certain people's name we can't even mention. I don't care how bad you are and what you did. Like you said, there were folk before social media doing it, y'all. Hate to tell you. And please, when the tapes on Dr. King come out in 2027, the reason I've tried to deal with this, Negroes hated on me. What's wrong with you? Why are you dealing with that? You know why, Negro? Because when them tapes drop and you see what was really going down, your mind's gonna be blown. I'm saying I done heard them. I know what they're about. He's still the greatest we ever produced. Now, was it wrong? Of course. Was it all right? No, of course not. But I'm not going to reduce the complexity of Dr. King's life to one thing. As Jesse Jackson said, look at the box score. Don't look at one inning. Look at the game. Look at the season. Look at the career. You might have batted, 227, but you might have had 407 like Ted Williams one year. So 403. So the thing is that look at the splendid splinter. Look at, y'all don't even know what that is. Go look at that. Splendid splinter. Y'all don't even know what that is. Y'all don't even know what that is. But this is a baseball man I'm talking to. I know he knows. So the thing is that look at the average. Look at what you've done. Don't reduce your life to your own mistake and a mistake made. Nobody can live up to that. And you may be the canceler today. You're going to be the cancelee tomorrow. It's vicious. And let me say this. This zero-sum intolerance is a right-wing idea. Black people ain't never promoted that at our best. Zero-sum, zero tolerance, they did that against us to kick us out of school. You did one infraction, you're done. So I'm saying we must be far more careful, far more generous, far more loving, far more willing to talk about redemption, not just look the other way when bad actors are there. Hold them to account to the hilt, but allow them to be reintegrated into communities that we will receive them in, and then they become productive. Heck, they let the dude who shot Ronald Reagan out, and they let the dude who killed Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, out. They let one murderer and an attempted murderer out with mental issues. We got to do better in loving and affirming our own.
Amen. Amen. One of the folks that you write about in the book, and as you mentioned, you got to spend some time with the late Bill Withers.
Oh, man.
And, again, conversations about redemption, are at play with him. And it's stuff that he addressed in his music, right? If not directly. His music, if anything, was this Black man trying to parse, right? The sins that were made and the sins he wished he didn't made and wishing for some kind of different kind of future. Talk about, what it was for you to have that relationship, that last decade of his life, with someone like Bill Withers. And I know you're such a big fan, right? That album Adjustments, which we've talked about in the past, right? Yeah. Just the sheer genius of the man in an era in which, he's coming off the bench. I mean, that's the thing that's so amazing with Marvin and Barry and Al Green and Curtis and Donnie Hathaway. I mean, he's coming off the bench, right? Which tells you how incredible the genius was in that moment.
Yeah, that's a hell of a way to put it. He was the sixth man of the year. He was the sixth man of the year. He was Jamal Crawford up in this piece. He was Lou Williams up in here. Gonna give you 35 points off the bench. Yeah. And he's off the bench, not because he wasn't capable of starting, not because he wasn't a genius, but because the density and depth of the talent and the way in which he was unwilling to sell his soul for popularity. That's why he quit when he did. He's like Barry Sanders, 10 albums in, I'm done. I'm finished. No, I'm through. I'm cut because if you can't do it the way I need it to be done, if you're trying to fit me into a narrow commercial box that I don't belong in, I'm not going to capitulate to that. So Bill Withers is one of the greatest poets of the 20th century and into the 21st century. The words, the rhythms. If you listen to adjustments where he's talking about being a railroad man, he's doing onomatopoeia, you know, and he and Jose Feliciano, and talking about, you know, blue, bucket, pail, and blue collar working. Here's a man who was a blue collar black man. He worked on planes and stuff, fixing them. Then when he retired, he fixed up apartment buildings and stuff. He was working with his hands before and after, and perhaps even during, right? Like Keith Sweat is on Wall Street. I ain't giving him that job till I get a hit record. Bill Withers was a handyman and a worker, a laborer, who then from West Virginia in coal mining territory, who then recognized his extraordinary genius, and others did. And he got put on, and he was amazing. His poetry, his literacy, his lyricism, his ability to string together words to make emotions powerful. The name of the piece I have in the book, Hello, like before. I mean, he says nobody's ever said that, ever heard that before, but everybody knows what it means when you're here. Right. Hello, hello, like before. So here's a man who was such a deep literary genius and a generous soul to me. And we had many conversations. He would see when some haters were after me, he would text me some encouragement and some funny stuff that I can't even say here on your PG show. You know, it ain't safe for, you know, what they call it, SFS, whatever they call that, safe for workplaces, can't do it. But he was an amazing human being, and acknowledging his own faults, his own failures, his own foibles, his own complicated and nuanced humanity that, as you said, he acknowledged, but he also was able to receive a measure of redemption and move forward in his extraordinary career. It was amazing to have that relationship with him.
And then, of course, Miss Franklin, fellow Detroiter. You had the honor. I often wonder, when was that moment when Black Going Home services became national TV, event TV, right? Thinking about going back to Michael, but I can even remember, Ron Brown's funeral, and being, broadcast on CNN and all of that, right? So like, what does it mean? What is it about Black Going Home services that resonate in the American psyche on the one hand, right? And of course, you got to give some words, public words for Aretha Franklin, but talk a little bit about that relationship, with Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, well, Aretha Franklin was one of my dearest friends, an amazing genius, the greatest voice I think we've heard in this country. I mean, for no small reason did Rolling Stone name her the greatest singer of all time, without question. Even though, some of the others, I was like, yo, you got to put Sam Cooke higher. Ray Charles was certainly already high.
Where's Bobby Blue Bland at?
Where's Bobby Blue? And where is Donny Hathaway? Where's Donny Hathaway? I mean, Donny Hathaway was a cultural phenomenon that was within our own purview. He broke out a couple of times in terms of pop stuff, but that is Black genius unfettered. And you got a voice, golden voice, that is in our community. But the greatest voice we've ever heard. The greatest, soul singer in that sense, and feminist, bringing together respect. I mean, what she did with respect that Otis Redding couldn't do. He didn't have the body or the body of work at that level, right? I mean, he had a body of work that was immense and amazing, but in terms of bringing together those themes, I mean, Otis Redding was amazing. When he wrote that book, wrote that song, it was amazing. But Aretha brought an existential affirmation and a yearning and a plea as a Black woman being denied access to circles. In the same way Pauli Murray talked about, I got to fight Jim Crow out there. And then among Black men, and she didn't call it misogynoir, she called it Jane Crow. I got to fight gender injustice among both with other Black men and then with white men outside and others. So Aretha faced all that and was still able to love black people, love black men like her daddy, even when she knew he was wrong, and knew black men were wrong, but supported them. A major friend and fundraiser for Martin Luther King Jr. And she told me many stories. We cracked up on some of the stories. Like she told me a story once. She said Dr. King was staying at their home, and the maid, I think her name was Gladys. And she said Dr. King got up early before they came down and went down. And Gladys said, well, Dr. King, for breakfast this morning, we got some grits and we got some eggs and we got some sausage. and so she said, Dr. King said, now, well, Gladys, I'll have some grits and I'll have some eggs and I'll have some of that sausage. You know, knowing, of course, that she didn't know how to pronounce sausage. And so Aretha Franklin used to tell me that story. We would crack up that's the humility of the man.
Right.
That he wasn't going to correct her. He wasn't going to try to tell her, what the heck is that? You mean sausage? He just emulated what she said and understood. Like George Orwell said, if I say something, you understand what I'm saying, we communicate.
What's the problem, right? What's the problem?
What the problem is. And so she would tell me stories like that about Dr. King, about her father, one of the greatest preachers ever. Speaking of Bobby Blue Bland stole from him that hawk that he got from Seattle. You don't hear me, yeah. You know. So as the late great Albert Roberto, whose funeral I attended, my great mentor, talked about it in the chanted sermon. So Aretha Franklin invited me to the Trumpet Awards when they were giving her and her father one posthumously, explaining his genius. And she did me the great honor of having me come on TV, come on that award show, and explain to the world the greatness of C.L. Franklin. She invited us to, to see the Pope with her. She invited us to vacation with her. Look, I spent a lot of quality time with the great Aretha Franklin, and it was an amazing thing. And her homegoing service, about 9 hours and Blackness. I don't know. I hope he doesn't get mad when I say this, but Tyler Perry texted me the next day. He says, I would be able to respond, but I'm still at Aretha Franklin's funeral. So that thing, I was like, God, it was going on a long time, but how rich it was, how amazing it was. And, I was at Coretta Scott King's funeral, where you had three presidents sitting up there. And yes, homegoing services are more than homegoing services, just like sermons are more than sermons and church is more than church. It's our community. It's our social drive. It's our cultural enabler. It's where we come to do politics and fundraising and entrepreneurship. So it's our be all and end all.
She was black because she was from the blackest city in the world, Detroit. I know y'all jealous. You from Chicago, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. You good, but you ain't got the D.
Even if folk ain't officially part of the church, it's still central to so many of our communities. So our homegoing services are ways to shout back at power. That's why in my eulogy, I shouted back at Donald Trump, and it went viral.
This orange apparition had the nerve to say she worked for him. You lugubrious leech. You dopey doppelganger of deceit and deviance. You lethal liar. You dim-witted dictator. You foolish fascist. She ain't worked for you. She worked above you. She worked beyond you. Get your preposition right.
And and something else. It's all in the book. I got it in there. And I did that for Aretha Franklin because I knew what her politics were. She was amazing. I mean, trying to get Angela Davis out of jail, pay her bond and bail. I mean, she was amazingly dedicated to doing the right thing. And so
The favorite story I like to tell folks about Aretha Franklin is Esther Phillips. Esther Phillips drops this amazing album, From a Whisper to a Scream, the same year that Aretha is nominated. Aretha wins the award, right? But is gracious enough to say to Esther Phillips, "This should have been yours." I can't imagine. Right. Any contemporary artist given that kind of judgment. I mean, on the one hand, is Aretha saying, "Look, I don't need this." Right. It doesn't mean the same for me, given how you've toiled in your career. This means something really, really different for you. And I also got to respect your art. Because I know where it comes from. And it's like, and we didn't get enough of those stories about Aretha Franklin.
Right. No, her generosity of spirit was extraordinary, bro. I mean, that with Esther Phillips, acknowledging her, predecessors, growing up in a house with C.L. Franklin, where Dinah Washington is at the crib. Sam Cooke is at the crib. Come on. Martin Luther King Jr.
Reverend James Cleveland is living with you.
James Cleveland. I mean, come on. I mean, the royalty of Black America at her beck and call. And she was a princess and a queen.
And tell me Omar Dorsey didn't kill that performance of Reverend James Cleveland in a National Geographic series.
Oh my God. Yeah, both of them, even in the movie, was great. But my God, in that National Geographic, I was like, dude, I thought that. And wait a minute. And Wayans playing Ted White.
Ted White.
The movie. Yep. Oh my God. I mean, Jennifer Hudson, I said, I knew Aretha baby for 15 years of her life, the last 15. You murked that. I mean, it's hard to get that spirit. And look, we know as generous as she could be, she could be petty. I'm just saying now, I've experienced that too. And she cut you off and you like, what? What'd I do? But she was an amazing, loving, generous woman who was incredible. And like I said, the most gifted, the most amazing voice that we've heard in the 20th century belonged to Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, this is the perfect time for us, Michael, to pick up the needle. This has been wonderful. I just want to ask you this one last question. One of the things I've always appreciated watching you both up close and afar is that you are genuinely excited about your achievements. At every step in the game, right? That's something that's always struck me. You're like, it's like the 12-year-old you growing up in Detroit, who never could ever believe that you would have an audience with Aretha Franklin or Bill Withers or any of these other folks. Do you still enjoy this?
Oh my God. Oh yes, that's the way you do. Yeah, the way yes, it is still fresh. It's still real. And the moment it ain't, get out. Don't do it. Don't do it anymore. Don't be involved. It is so amazing. And it's not just clout chasing. I know that's what the young people say. Yeah, clout chasing, and that's real. Or celebrity mongering. No, it's about an appreciation for rare Black genius and access to it. The only time I met Michael Jackson, I'm at the funeral of Johnny Cochran. And we in the bathroom. And Michael Jackson is washing his hands. And I'm sitting there and I done my business. We're washing my hand. And he goes, I like how you talk on TV. I said, I like how you sing on stage. And he went, I mean, Mike, yes, to Prince. I remember I met Prince. He invited us to the Purple Palace, so to speak, out there in Minneapolis. And then he was performing in LA and he says, I know Mr. Dyson can talk, but can he dance? I was like, bro, come on, man. Come on, man. We had to get on stage. Me and Cedric Entertainer got on stage. Yeah, those moments, hanging out with Aretha Franklin, Beyonce, Jay, Nas. It's about appreciation of genius, of extraordinary achievement, of what they have done. It's not about autograph seeking or picture taking. It's about registering in your spirit the novel, the beautiful, the incredible way in which these people, and not just entertainers, by the way, politicians and preachers and social activists. Jesse Jackson, as now he struggles against Parkinson's. He doesn't get his due, not before he's dead and in his grave will people truly understand the magnitude.
It's still dropping pieces in the Sun-Times on immigration.
Right now, it's still extraordinary. Just a remarkable human being. So yeah, it's still great to me. It's still amazing to me. It's still amazing. I get a chance to do this. This is work. This is what I do for a living. Yeah, I can talk about things I love, right. And then also make a career out of them. So yeah, it's still a beautiful, remarkable thing, and magical in many ways for me to have this opportunity to do what I do.
I know you read everything. What are you reading these days?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great point. There's so much good stuff out here. I'm going back. I'll tell you what I'm rereading, but it's in the Library of America. Richard Hofstadter's Anti-Intellectualism. And they got it together. They got the Anti-Intellectualism in America, the Paranoid Style in Politics, and many of his uncollected essays. And I'm telling you, it's mind-blowing. The parallel in 1963, when he's writing about anti-intellectualism, and he's writing about evangelicals who are selling their souls and deferring to these political machinations, Goldwater, and he marks anti-intellectualism when, over a great, political figure who's liberal, they've chosen Ike over other people. And the point is that anti-intellectualism didn't just begin now, but when you read the book, you go, this is Trump stuff. He's explaining it. The paranoid style in politics, the anti-intellectualism, the way in which the church has become the footstool for politically ravenous figures who desire to consume the bodies of human beings and not attend to their souls, or by looking at their souls and not looking at the inequalities that their bodies suffer, and being tools of a vast right wing that is incapable of being compassionate. I mean, I'm reading that going, my God, this is mind blowing. And I just got Pharaoh Jasmine Griffin's book that I've read, Read Until You Understand. Such a remarkable, brilliant book, a fusion of literary analysis and memoir. There's a self-published book by a woman, Corey Minor Smith, called #Driven, self-published. But her mother has schizophrenia. She grew up and moved about 21 times before she went to college. Her mother became her roommate in college. And with, having schizophrenia and talking about and attacked by her mother and so on, and how she overcame it to become a lawyer and a person who deals with mental health. So #Driven is another book that I'm reading. And those, I think, among many others, are extraordinary books. And of course, my man, Aubrey Hendricks, Christians Against Christianity, speaking about evangelicals who are doing the wrong thing and using religion to justify their vicious politics. That book from my former Princeton schoolmate is a remarkable, remarkable book. So that's some of the stuff I'm reading right now.
Michael, it was an honor and privilege for you to join us on this season launch, season 12 of Left of Black. Thank you, as always, for the work that you do, for your generosity, for your brilliance. And we're looking forward to having you on the show again.
Man, it's always a pleasure to be on here. I'm grateful to you for the way in which you continue to apply with ingenuity your craft and to continue to grow and evolve. That's one of the things I love about you, consistently and continually growing and evolving. And of course, writing and thinking. I'm often, when I'm listening to a piece of music or reading something, I said, I need Mark Anthony Neal to explain to me what the heck I'm listening to here so I can understand myself and process it. So I need your voice in my head, and it has been there for, more than a quarter of a century. And I'm grateful to you for that, and grateful to you for your faithfulness to your profession, to your vocation, and to your craft, and helping people understand what it is we're doing. So God bless you, and thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Michael.
Black lights and booze burn when I record for Watts. And every black like Troy Davis who never had a fair shot. All black everything, everything black. Culture over everything, y'all, we taking it back. Black.